You're listening to the Novice Experience, a podcast that explores the opportunities and challenges commonly encountered by students and young people. I'm Calvin Chan, and chatting with my guests, I'm going to take a deep dive into their meaningful stories, the lessons they've learned, and how they can inspire others. Let's get going. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Novice Experience. I'm your host, Calvin Chan. Today, I'm really excited to have my former mentor from the Royal Canadian Air Cadets program, Jon Leung, here at the show. Jon is a captain in the Air Cadets Instructors Cadre of the Canadian Forces, where he has been a champion for youth mentorship and program development for almost 13 years. He has worked with... Yeah, that's a long time, yeah. But you worked with hundreds of young individuals in BC to help them achieve some of the highest honors and most unique experience the cadet program has to offer. And outside of your cadets, you exude leadership and interpersonal qualities as a customer care manager with experience in training, marketing, communications, and social media. So Jon, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate the invite.
So guys, this is a two-part episode. In the first part, we're going to focus on talking about personal growth and development. So if you're a young adult, you're going through high school, you're going through some of your different extracurricular activities, and you're wondering how to get ahead of the game. How do you grow as a person and become more mature and have a really strong mentality as you grow up and go into college and university, or do whatever you're going to do as an adult. We're going to talk about some of the advice that Jon might have from his experience in cadets. And in part 2 of our episode, we're going to talk about becoming a leader. So at some point, most likely, everyone's going to have to lead a team and work in a leadership environment. But, it's a very fluid and dynamic role as a leader. So we're going to talk about some of the tips and advice on how to become a great leader for the team and environment that you're leading. But Jon, before we start, I like to ask all my guests for an origin story. So where you're born and raised, some of the most defining moments in your life that make up who you are today.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Victoria, BC, in a very, very, very diverse neighborhood. My father was a very big community leader in the Chinese community in Victoria. It played a lot into, I didn't think about this when I was younger, but as I grow older and older and become my father in a sense, he really built in the sense of the importance of community and seeing him in the roles of leadership and how he developed his community really played a part in my development as a human being. So growing up in Victoria, another thing that really helped is with being bullied as a kid for being a little bit different, to having a really, really aggressive anger problem growing up that my parents had to deal with as a rebellious, rascally kid, to being forced into the cadet program where I was forced basically to learn how to be an appropriate person in general, learn discipline, learn how to coordinate, learn how to be an adult. And I think the biggest defining features that you asked is, honestly, I found my current success and what I do hold in my opinion, what my personal successes are through failure. And one of the biggest things that helped me fail a lot was the cadet program, where it took my arrogant, really, I thought I had a lot of talent attitude, smacked me down 1,000 different pegs in 1,000 different ways to become more humble, to be more self-reflective, to grow and develop into a contributing citizen. And I think that's the story of Jon Leung.
And we'll get into that more, actually, of how you were as a kid and how it influenced what kind of leader you became when you grew up. So, but I like to do a segment called Give Me 5. It's a lightning
Sure.
round of questions. I ask 5 questions. You don't have to explain or elaborate, but it's just for so our listeners get to know you better. So, number one, who do you admire the most?
My dad.
Number two, describe yourself in 3 words.
Um, Charismatic, a Bruce Lee enthusiast, and I like spreadsheets.
That was like, what, 10 words?
Yeah, sorry.
If you could relive one experience in your life, what would it be?
Relive. Um, that's a really good question. I guess,
You can only pick one.
you know what? The It's a cadet experience, the time where we won provincials.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to give a context, it's our military drill team competition. So we have to go through 2 stages, right? The first round is your regionals, different units and different teams in the Metro Vancouver area. The
Hmm.
provincials is all over BC. Yeah, that was a really good achievement for us, that's for sure. Number four, what's your go-to comfort food?
My go-to comfort food is sushi.
Oh, me too. I can eat that all day.
Yeah.
Number five, I know that we both really liked, well, we still like Pokemon. So I wanted to ask, what's your favorite Pokemon?
It's a Pokemon called Oshawott. It's a
I thought it was Marowak.
It used to be, but then you found Oshawott. He's an otter with a
Shell?
shell that's razor sharp. It's so cute.
And get to throw it like a boomerang?
Yeah, and otters are my favorite animal. So
Oh, really? I didn't know
yeah,
that. Okay, wow. So it got, so Marowak got replaced. There
yes.
you go. Okay, so let's get into our episode. We want to talk about personal growth and development in part one. Um, you touched on your dad and your family, but can you set up for me what was life like in Victoria? How was it like living in your family? I know you have a brother,
Hmm.
um, and having like you said, the dad who was a community organizer, he was very involved. What was that life like?
Um, Honestly, it wasn't. I was very fortunate as a kid, to be quite honest. My parents were around enough, but they were really big community people. So they weren't around a lot. We had a lot of babysitters growing up. My brother and I fought a lot, just like any other siblings. Um, so Victoria was just really uneventful. It was a smaller town, and it definitely felt small. There wasn't a lot to do
Hmm.
on a weekend except for entertain yourself. So you really learn how to master your own boredom, to be quite honest. And yeah, it was a very one thing that I will say positively about Victoria is that it's a very friendly community. So it's really easy to go talk to people, meet new people, and just generally make friends. So it's a really good environment uh, for people to be pulled out of their shells to find quirky new niches because it's a very hipster city and grew up to be even more hipster nowadays. So I have very fond memories of Victoria, but if I was going to describe it in one word, it'd be boring. Yeah,
Well, just slow and simple, right?
yeah,
That's
slow
the
and simple.
lifestyle on the BC island.
Yeah.
Um, you touched on, you said earlier that you were bullied and you were forced into the Air Cadet program, and
Mhm.
that's pretty relatable to me as well because I had bullying experiences. I had trouble socializing with other people, and I did martial arts when I was younger, and I didn't really like it. So my mom said, if you were to quit kung fu, you had to go join Air Cadet program. So it wasn't for me. It wasn't uh, uh, forced in. I
Right.
struck a deal, right?
Right.
So, um, how did you learn about the Air Cadet program, and what was it like first joining it?
Well, I this is an infamous story, but I joined cadets because I was denied opportunity in joining the Scouts program because I was in Cub Scouts growing up, and then there was like the Sea Scouts that was like the next level.
Hmm.
I went on this bike trip to Salt Spring Island with a few Sea Scouts to see if I would want to join the program. We biked all over, but on that trip, I got bullied really, really hard by
Hmm.
one of the leader's kids. He hit me with like wet towels. He pushed over my tent, and like not to really put like a card onto it, but I was the only Asian kid there,
Right.
and he was only bullying me. So like whether I was like the smallest one, youngest one, or the Asian one, I just got bullied. And the reason why I wasn't invited back was on the very last day we were waiting for the ferry to go back to over. We were just hanging out on the beach. He pushed me over and then ran away. So I picked up a rock and I domed him right on the head. So he was bleeding a bit. And
Yeah.
then his dad was obviously mad, had a conversation with my mom and said, like, I can't join. So my mom, same thing in a different context, obviously, but my
Yeah.
mom, same ultimatum. You can go to church to go to Sunday school, or you can go to cadets. And I'm like, I don't like the church or Sunday school, so I will go to cadets, not knowing what it was. And that's how I got forced into cadets. I
Um,
struck a deal.
yeah. Yeah. Structured.
Yeah.
It's a negotiation. What is the cadet program? Can you, like, from your own terms, because you've been in 20 years, what is it to you personally? And what does it mean to you looking back? Because I want to later take a look at when you first joined, did you have the same view and what changed?
To put it in non like official youth leadership
Hmm.
terms,
Yeah.
cadets is a really good youth incubator. And that's really what it is. It is
Incubator. Yeah.
another environment that's different than school that will give cadets or kids of all different backgrounds a chance and environment to succeed where they might not have in school because it's very different. The values are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just gives another environment for kids to shine. So in the world of a lot of alternatives today, um, I think the best word to describe it is that incubator. It's a good way to develop kids.
Mm-hmm. So before you were developed, when you first stepped into the incubator,
Mhm.
what were you like as a young John? You said you had an anger management issue. What
Yeah,
was it like socializing when not maybe not even in the cadet program, but when you were at school?
right. Before the cadet program, I was relatively still very sociable as a kid in elementary school. I had a good amount of friends. I was really close with them. I only really wanted to spend time with them. So going to cadets where I didn't know literally nobody going into that cadet program, was very daunting. Not something that I wanted to do whatsoever because I didn't know anybody. So I was very people oriented even back in the
Mm.
day. I did have a massive anger issue. I like destroyed my house by throwing stuff, punching walls, and doing all sorts of like physical property damage that definitely my parents were not excited about and were very happy to shove into a discipline program. They try to throw me into martial arts. They try to throw me into Chinese school and all these different things, and I just didn't have it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Were you always a leader in your friend group? Were you always the one who to lead the charge to do what you really believe in, um, make people buy into what you want to do?
Um, I think the better way to put it is I was a really shady kid. I was never really the leader or the outspoken person, but I would try to convince people to do stuff that I wanted to do
Right.
versus anything else. And I've always been pretty decent at talking. So I kind of talked my way into friendships and doing stuff that I that I wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're amongst your friends, and I'm guessing like there were times where you guys were just messing around and you're rallying people to do things that it's really up to you. You have the freedom to do whatever you want as a kid. But when did it click for you that maybe it's time to be more mature? Like you wanted to learn more about yourself and how you can be better. That personal growth mindset. When did it really click for you to learn about that?
Honestly, I think it came pretty late. It happened in cadets, which is unique enough. But in cadets, there's a promotion program. I was pretty proud to not be into cadets to need to be promoted because everything needed an exam. But there was a point in where we taught drill,
Mhm.
and that first experience of stepping onto the parade square, having people like learn in an environment that I controlled and actually enjoy it, I think that's where I came online. It was pretty
Mhm.
late. It's when I taught my first drill class.
But when were you ever receptive to someone coaching you? I'm sure that you had like different team leaders and supervisors throughout your early years, but I feel like it takes the listener to really like receive the message and decode it, right? So as a kid, if you're, let's say you had some rebellious intentions, like you didn't really have to receive the message.
Right.
So when did you um have buy-in yourself to your leaders, or you didn't buy in? What was the difference for you?
I would say I didn't buy in
Mm,
for a very like I'm even to this day as an adult, and it's one of my biggest weaknesses. I'm very hard to coach because uh, there's a whole plethora of reasons why I'm very hard to coach. But one of the things that sticks out is that I'm very uh, self motivated. So I don't need a lot of other people to motivate me. I'm pretty self motivated as a person. I kind
mhm,
of know what I want and how I want to play the game. So when someone else tries to coach me on it without my volition, it comes off as aggressive, and then it gets we go into a combat state at that point.
right.
Um, however, there that changed just a little bit when in the cadet program I found an officer. It was definitely one of the officers who actually took the time to put some work into me, and I think that made the world of difference because I growing up in the program, there were a lot of other cadets who are definitely easier to coach. They're more receptive. They're more polite.
Hmm.
They're just way less aggressive uh, than I was as a cadet. So they got a lot of the good opportunities to become leaders. They got their own flight commander positions, things like that. And I was never really looked at in that sense. But until this officer actually put some time into educating me how to be a better instructor, he was a great instructor. So I actually like respected and tried to like learn from him, see what he
Hmm.
did. Um, is when I started to learn from other people
What did
properly.
you have to do to get that officer to guide you? You said you actually fully respected him. Did it show? Like, did you let that show that you he had your respect? Because I feel like maybe some people who they may not look as receptive on the outside, but maybe like they're willing to listen on the inside.
Hmm.
And as leaders, it's really easy to overlook these people, these young people. And I guess for some of our younger listeners right now, maybe they feel like they aren't given much of an opportunity to be coached, right?
Hmm.
So what do they have to do to open up to that mentorship relationship? Do you have to say particular things? Do you have to present a particular attitude? Do you have to do anything in particular to show a leader that you're worth being mentored?
So taking myself as personal experience, because the question is a little bit twofold. For me personally,
Mm,
I didn't show any opening for mentorship. Like I was just very closed off as a person in my
mhm,
own self development. I thought, and I think a lot of people that I've taught growing up, they really feel like it's a single player RPG. Like you are the protagonist. You do everything yourself. You have all the powers. You are the hero. It's all on you. Go do it, champ. Go for it. Um, and that's just not how life is, like life in
right.
general at all, period. But that's how I was when I was growing up. I was very egotistic in the sense, or egocentric in the sense that it was all on me to build myself up. I needed to find the resources. I can't ask anybody for help. I need to do this for myself, by myself, things like that. So I wasn't very open. But the difference is that a lot of people are put off by that. But this guy didn't care. He watched a
Mm,
class about something like about drill that I was obviously interested in, and he took me aside. He didn't tell me what to do better. He asked me about it, and I think that was the difference. Like nobody ever everybody tried to teach me something. Nobody tried to like open up a discussion. And I think that was a big change in leadership styles, because instead of telling you what to do, we try to collaborate and problem solve this together so we get buy-in. And that's like a leadership technique, right? Like, here's a
Right.
problem. What do you think we should do about it? Let's talk it out. And now we have a solution. Let's go do it. That's kind of what he did to me as a very young kid. I'm like, wow, this is enjoyable, like this experience. So he was the first person to like kind of offer that branch offer to me, and it made the world a difference. So in terms of the second part of the question, if you were the person that wants to be mentored, and this is where I'm saying I did not want to be mentored.
Yeah.
As a mentee, if you do want to be mentored and you're open to that, it just takes initiative. You should just ask, be a sponge, and be okay with maybe asking a dumb question, or maybe approaching someone that you might be a little bit intimidated by. Because at the end of the day, if they wanted to help you and if they want to mentor you, they'll say yes. But if they don't want you in their life as a person, they're gonna say no. And the difference is like, you can't be mentored by everybody. So if they don't like you, right, you just know like, oh, okay, not the right person to be mentored by. Time to go find another person. Time to find
Yeah.
another role model. Don't get, as a kid or a person who hasn't been mentored yet, don't get stuck on the one mentor. Like this person has to pay attention to me. Like the old animes. Like, please listen to me, senpai. Please.
Yeah.
Like, no, none of that. It's all fake. Like, if that person doesn't want to pay attention to you, go find someone else. There's tons of opinions out there that are valid.
It's interesting you say the personal connection matters, but I'm also thinking of like the environment as well.
Mm-hmm.
Being in that cadet environment might not be for everyone,
Right.
right? So I guess like some people are forced in, maybe you don't have another choice, because I mean cadets is sort of like a nighttime daycare, right?
Right.
Maybe some parents put their kids in and they were there for a few hours a week with other extracurriculars, and within cadets that's another few hours a week. But some people really truly didn't want to be there, but they had no way out. So are they supposed to force themselves to find something to buy into? Or like, what do they do?
So that's a really good question, and you can take it in two ways, and it really depends on your situation. Because as a kid, maybe you have more flexible parents,
Hmm.
like more flexible, for the lack of better, owners, like people who own your responsibilities.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe if you push them well enough, they'll back down, and then you don't have to be there anymore. And fantastic, you can find another environment to win at, right?
Right.
But realistically, just I don't think a lot of kids have that fight in them. Especially a lot of the kids that like I've dealt with, who come from an Asian background with more
Yeah.
more strict parenting,
Hmm.
like don't you ever talk back type
Yeah.
of environment. I would kind of meet them halfway, where if you it's my mom's like I say this advice that my mom gave me when I was a kid in cadets, hating my life, and this advice has stuck with me, and I teach it to all my kids. Is that I told my mom one day, like, I really don't like cadets. It's really boring. There's nothing of value that it's giving to me. And my mom's like, well, nothing's gonna change. So if you're bored, make yourself not bored. And I'm
It's
like,
that
man,
simple.
thanks for your ancient Chinese wisdom, mom. Like,
Right.
it's fantastic. Are you Confucius? Like, it sounds as
Yeah.
convoluted as that, but in reality, it was the best advice, because especially for my personality, it was really the best advice for my personality, because we talked about this a little bit of foreshadowing before, but
Hmm.
part of my personality is community and being able to rally people to do things that I like to do.
Hmm.
Um, and what my mom said to me came into the action that came out of it is that if I don't like cadets environment right now, I will make it an environment that I like, and I'll change it. Like that's the mission. I will just make this program into something that I enjoy.
Hmm.
And when I got told that, I'm pretty sure I was a level 3, and I took it seriously for like the first time. Like, oh, I can have an effect in this program. Um, that's when that all came online.
Well, yeah, it definitely sounds like. Well, I was gonna ask, like, if you were that kid that really likes to rally or the people around you to do whatever, like um, you think it's good and it's fun.
Yeah.
Why did you hate the cadet program so much, right? But it sounds like then at that time when your mom said that, you realized that you had to take charge of your life.
Right.
Even like not even in the air cadet program, but just like for people who are maybe studying a particular subject or doing an extracurricular that they aren't really interested in. Like you really have to take that initiative to either stick it through, like find out what you're truly passionate about by not being bored, or stepping away and finding something else that you're interested in, and
Right.
don't waste time just to waste time.
Right, exactly. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest weaknesses that I had was
Mm-hmm.
I was very narrow minded. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
easiest way. Had incredible tunnel vision. The program, in the way that I saw it before that conversation, was singular. Like, it's just cadets. It only means this. There's no other possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really eye opening when I put into action. And I think that's the reason why I enjoyed the program after the fact so much, is that it really became my playground to build to what I want. And that's where I found success. And I wasn't able to do that in school. Like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the personality, the popularity cloud, it just wasn't my environment to infect that change.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just find a community at school, but
Mm-hmm.
this one gave me the ability to put that all into action. And the main thing that you said is one of the biggest things. Like, as a kid, you feel like, and most kids are narrow minded, that what they're told is reality, or what they first initially see is reality. This is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
period. And one of the things that I used to do as a kid, even as an adult now, I really like movies and I learn a lot from movies. And when my mom said the thing, it really reminded me of Star Wars. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things in Star Wars that really resonates with me is uh, there's a line in the movies that say only the Sith believe in absolutes, and the way you can translate that is that only the most evil, narrow-minded, singular purposed people believe in absolutes. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to be with peace, if you want to be like ever growing, if you want to be like living, you need to believe in possibility and
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
So when my mom said that, I'm like, oh man, I'm being dumb. And I, like, as a kid, I really don't, even as an adult, I really don't like being dumb. And I recognized that I was dumb. So it
Yeah.
sparked a change in behavior. And cadets back in the day was, honestly, it wasn't fun. Like, even cadets in some places now, it's not fun. Like, there's not a
Yeah.
lot there. It's almost after night school. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what it was to me until
Mm-hmm.
that day.
Yeah, I feel like definitely like in cadets, what's really nice about it was that like for me when I was in the program, as I got older, I felt like there was a particular type of freedom for us to do whatever we wanted, as long as it made sense and it was for the good of everyone else in the unit
Mhm.
and for the squadron. We had the adult officers support,
Right.
and I feel like that kind of freedom. It was like a school and a like with different extracurriculars on its own, right?
Mhm.
And you can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
So I feel like when your mom said that and when you realized you were being dumb, suddenly I mean, it's not just like dumb, like maybe academically or the way like being street smart or
I
not,
mean, I
but
wish it was academically dumb because at least you can study. No, this is
study.
just you as dumb as a person. Like, you
But then
as a person are dumb.
I think it brought you to a deeper level of thinking
Yeah.
that it wasn't there, right? You were suddenly more self aware of how you need to take control over your life and just not wait around and let people tell you what to do and what's supposed to be. Suddenly, like you said, you saw different possibilities. So I'm
Right.
curious, like after that, what are some of the most defining moments for the rest of your cadet career, where you can say like, right, I've done this, like I didn't know I could do this, and I've changed for the better. I've grown, I've matured. What did you do afterwards?
Um, I think one of the smallest things that I did that I was really proud of was I to become drill team commander, even though like I was in line to be it with compared to some other people. But instead of getting the position and then coming up with a routine and all that type of stuff, when the year started for cadets, I came with a plan, with already a routine built. And then I just told them that I would like to be drill team commander, and I already had this planned out. And I was drill team commander. And it's one of those things where instead of like, oh, I'll wait till I get that position to do the work. No. I'll do the work because I really want this to happen. And whether I become the commander or not, I already have a routine, so we can work on it. Like, I care about it that much. I just want us to do well. And that was one of the first efforts that I can remember that, like, my small amount of effort in preparing and coordinating paid off. Then there are like the ton of other things that I used to like to do, which is like, once again, if I'm bored with a subject, I really don't want to be bored. For, let's say, a tag day, which is sitting out in front of the open in the cold,
it's basically a fundraiser.
Yeah, begging people to give us money. I didn't like that, so I always like I brought like an activity to convince the people of the community to play, to learn about cadets, and then they would pay me with a donation. I remember putting effort into that and trying to make every small moment that I had a little bit less boring. And then that played out with like getting petitions together to get like a dance together for the cadets, getting different activities approved by doing petitions, writing the op order beforehand, not asking permission before like floating the idea if this is okay or not with the officers, just doing the work. And just said, like, I did the work already. Can we do this? Can you just sign this right here? And typically the answer is yes, because they don't. And I'm sure you'll know this even with your peers. There's not a lot of cadets who do that.
Yeah.
Right. But it is an attitude that we push towards 655. That's why events is really, really held in high regard. Like, if you have an idea and you put forward that idea, like, convince me to do it. If you can do that, fantastic. It's very businesslike. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, now you're in this position, so now you're qualified to. No, any kid, a 14-year-old kid can plan an event.
And I think that people underestimate their competency in taking initiative.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a confidence thing, but it's not that like, oh, this cadet has come up with their own plan and they've done all the planning already and it's all in writing. I'm just going to approve it just because. It's most of the time, like, it's decent. Like, you just have to make a few tweaks along the way and give some of your advice as an officer. But I think like young people in general underestimate their power to make an impact if they really wanted to and they had the drive for it.
Right. It's that illusion of
you're not supposed to do it at this age because you're not supposed to be ready yet.
That as well as just people just treating you as a kid. And that attitude never goes away, by the way. Even when you become an adult, there's always a person older than you that thinks that they're more qualified, better, they have more experience or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you got the skills, if you've got the knowledge, if you got the game and put it on the field, like, you have to play. Don't be scared and hold that knowledge and stand in the stands. You have to play. And when you're on the field, you can be surprised at how good other people are, and you're just like blown out of the water. You're like, wow, I was not prepared. But more likely, you just realize that other players are just like you. Like, they're just trying their best. Right? So just get out there and do it.
But even if the other players are so much better than you, you know where you rank amongst them. You're not in the dark anymore about who you are. And I feel like that's almost really inspiring in a way, because it fulfills who you really are, right? It's okay that you're not as good as other people, but at least you're not always doubting yourself. And there's that sense of fear that you can't let go.
And at least then you know what you don't know. Like, if you throw yourself against a wall, at least you know that wall is there now. You're like, okay, well, let's look around and try to troubleshoot this. And hopefully your soul doesn't get crushed at it. But I think that's another part where you're like, if you build it up to this pedestal where it's like this one crowning achievement and you just fail at it, right?
Mhm.
You approached it the wrong way. It'd be easier if you just started earlier and just started failing early and early and earlier. Like, the
Mhm.
better you'd be, the more resistant you'll be, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think this is a good place to stop part one of our episode. I think you mentioned some really good things for part two, where we're going to talk about how to become a leader, how you grow into that position. And you talked about creating an experience early on, taking that initiative. So we're going to talk about that next week in our part two episode. But to end off, John, um, for a young person who's ready to step out of their comfort zone and to take the next level in terms of like personal development, what's the first thing that they should do right now?
The first thing that they should do is ask for help. That's that's the best thing that you can do.
Hmm.
Whether you do it one baby step at a time, which means like to Google it or YouTube it, which is
Yeah,
step one. But if you can actually just ask a person who's just a little bit more experienced, a little bit better than you, and just like ask them how to be better, you would be surprised how open and collaborative the human nature is.
agreed.
So
Agreed.
just ask.
And it's really clear if you look at the most successful people or the richest businessmen we have in the world, they have a wide range of networks and connections with people. And I feel like asking for help and networking is a sign of maturity because you
Yeah,
understand that for you to do good and be successful in the world, you can't do it alone. It's impossible
right,
to do it alone. And so as I was growing up, like I realized it's almost cool to know a lot of people. It's almost cool to say, oh, I don't know how to fix my car, but I can call up my good buddy John there to come over and fix it for me
right.
because we can do it together and I can learn from him. But at least I know I can pick up the phone and call somebody up. So I
Yeah,
think on a micro scale, for sure, like starting with just reaching out to somebody or Googling online how to start a conversation even can really help.
yeah, exactly. Just
Mm.
just ask the question, ask it to Google, ask it to YouTube, ask it to a real life person. You'll be better for it. Ask your
For
parents.
sure.
You'll still be better for it.
For sure, for sure. All right, John. Thanks for coming on the show. We're gonna come back for part two, and thanks so much for tuning into another episode of the Novice Experience. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Novice Experience. Our theme song is Concrete Jungle by Audio Binger. You can find us or reach out on social media at the Novice Exp. That's the Novice EXP. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on all your podcast listening platforms. Talk to you next time.